I'm Patrick Watson, I'm an astrologer, and today we're going to talk about the 10 different types of Scorpio. So, you were born with the sun in Scorpio, the nocturnal sign of Mars, the sign of the deadly assassin in the shadows, the vampy seductive femme fatale, and the things that go bump in the night. They are survivors, shrewd and stealthy, secretive, suspicious and stoic, stubborn, stern and striking, stormy, stinging, and sometimes a bit scary. Stereotypically, they have a brooding death stare and commonly dark features, black hair, tattoos and piercings. They look just somehow dangerous. Emos, essentially, although you sometimes get the crazily intense, bubbly blonde Scorpio types too, and they can be just as intimidating. Scorpios are the Slytherins of the zodiac, basically. You know, they're a bit dark, a bit moody, powerful for better or worse, etc. Scorpios are pretty private, which is funny because Scorpio is traditionally associated with the genitals and anus, which we even call our private parts. You know, you typically don't walk around letting it all hang out. This is where our reproductive power comes from, but it's also where we piss and shit. And this sort of captures the two sides of Scorpio. It's this place of great power. There's this indomitable will to survive and the desire to penetrate through reality to get to the truth. But it also deals with the tawdry, sordid, and profane, and even gross, obscene, or gruesome parts of existence that we just try to avoid. I mean, typically you don't talk about your masturbation habits, or how heavily you menstruate, or how many times a day you shit, or how many abortions you've had. You know, just typically you avoid those topics. After all, it's only Mars that rules Scorpio. It's not a place where any planets are exalted. It's always going to be a place you know is there, but would rather avoid if you could, like a graveyard or a dark alleyway. Scorpio is the opposite sign of Taurus, which is a sign associated with the things you take for granted, the creature comforts, things you can see and touch. So Scorpio is about the parts of life you try to avoid or are obscure, and this can be in a scientific context as well as mystical context such as the paranormal and the occult. And this is also why Scorpio, especially since it's ruled by Mars, has connotations of death. It's the ultimate unknown, the eternal dark, and the reality that we avoid most. Scorpios live with an intensity and sense of risk and danger that seems to put them always on the edge of life and death. I always thought it was funny that when the sun is in Scorpio each year, this is when the festival of Samhain is celebrated, which is a feast for the dead, where souls of the dead and other supernatural entities cross over from the other world. This eventually became Christianized and merged with All Souls Day to give us Halloween. You know, this is the one time of the year where kids dress up scary and adults dress up slutty and have a grand old time trick-or-treating or watching horror movies on TV. So, yeah, that's Scorpio. But not every person with the sun in Scorpio is the same, however, and one way we can differentiate between different types of Scorpio is by considering what other planets aspect the sun. So today we're just focusing on the conjunction, which is where two celestial bodies are close to the same degree of longitude. So different planets conjunct the sun in Scorpio equals a different kind of Scorpio. Sun conjunct moon in Scorpio. Someone with the moon conjunct the sun in Scorpio will be a Scorpio inside and out. Interestingly, Bram Stoker was born on the day of a new moon in Scorpio, and he's the guy who is most famous for coming up with a pretty stereotypically Scorpio character. Dracula, a vampire, an evil undead guy who drinks people's blood and has sexy time with vampire women for eternity. The moon is said to represent one's mother, and what's interesting about that is that Bram Stoker was first interested in horror and the macabre from a young age when his mother would read him scary stories as a kid. So, yeah, moon in Scorpio. Sun conjunct Mercury in Scorpio. Mercury is the speaker, the intellectual, so someone with the Sun and Mercury in Scorpio is going to talk about things that are kind of hard to talk about. Ayaan Hirsi Ali was born with the Sun conjunct Mercury in Scorpio, and she's a writer, speaker, activist, critical of Islam, especially genital mutilation of Muslim women. And if you're wincing just thinking about that, that's why she's speaking out about it. And so, yeah, it's a, hard topic to talk about, and it has to do with the genitals, so naturally, Mercury in Scorpio. That's Scorpio for you. Sun conjunct Venus in Scorpio. Venus is about love and beauty, but in Scorpio, it's going to be torrid and sleazy. Larry Flynt was born with the Sun conjunct Venus in Scorpio, and he's given the world a lot of porn, especially of the explicit, lowbrow, and hardcore variety. Personally, it's hard to reach another conclusion other than that he's pretty perverted personally, but he has also forced the United States to confirm its commitment to free speech in various legal battles. He also works to expose the hypocrisy of politicians who publicly take conservative positions on sexuality while privately having libertine sex lives. So, yeah. Venus in Scorpio. Sun conjunct Mars in Scorpio. Mars rules Scorpio, so someone with the Sun conjunct Mars in Scorpio is going to be capable of being ruthless, destructive, and powerful. Vito Genovese was born with the Sun conjunct Mars and Uranus in Scorpio, and he basically ran the mafia for a couple of years with the nickname the Boss of All Bosses before he was finally arrested. He's a guy who would have a guy killed if you said he wasn't treating you right, but then he'd have you killed too for snitching on him. Not exactly a good guy, but, good at what he did, I mean, not bad for someone who evaded 2 murder convictions before getting slowed down, you know what I mean? Scorpio. Sun conjunct Jupiter in Scorpio. Jupiter has just moved into Scorpio, so I've been thinking about this one a bit, and Jupiter takes all of his beneficence, wisdom, and generosity, and in Scorpio it's applied towards dark, macabre topics. For example, the Sun was conjunct Jupiter in Scorpio when Oregon voters passed the Death with Dignity Act. They were the first Americans to legalize physician-assisted suicide. So this is all in the realm of Scorpio, a taboo topic like death and suicide, but with a distinctly Jupiterian spin. The right to die, mercy killing, death with dignity. A woman instrumental to the referendum's passage was Barbara Combs Lee, who was born when Jupiter was in Scorpio, so she experienced a Jupiter return in Scorpio at the law's passage, and she's now president of Compassion and Choices, which is a non-profit to advocate for patients who want medical assistance in dying. The Oregon Death with Dignity Act was challenged but upheld by the Supreme Court in Gonzalez v. Oregon, which was decided on January 17, 2006. And where was Jupiter? Back in Scorpio. So one might expect this topic to come back into popular discussion, I suppose, later on into next year, while Jupiter is still in Scorpio. Sun conjunct Saturn in Scorpio. Speaking of the right to die, Saturn is tragic, melancholic. Brittany Maynard was born with the Sun conjunct Saturn in Scorpio, and you may remember her name from just a few years ago. She was 29 and found out she had a deadly brain tumor. She caused a huge media sensation when she said she planned on ending her life rather than dealing with a protracted terminal illness. She took advantage of Oregon's Death with Dignity Act and ended her life on November 1st, 2014 during her Saturn return in Scorpio, and when the Sun and Venus were back in Scorpio. It's one thing to pass a law for the right to die, quite another to exercise it. So with the Sun conjunct Saturn in Scorpio, she's now the new face of this right to die. I'm getting real bummed out here. Sun conjunct Uranus in Scorpio. Okay, let's lighten it up. So Scorpio isn't just about dying, it's also about survival against all odds. Aaron Ralston was born with the Sun conjunct Uranus in Scorpio, and he's famous for being the climber who got trapped and had to chop off his own arm in order to survive, dramatized in the movie 127 Hours with James Franco. Obviously, not every person with this position has had this specific experience, but they may resonate with having to go to extreme lengths to survive and flirting with danger. Uranus is also related to technological innovations, so in Scorpio, inventions have come about that have to do with invisibility. For example, the Sun was conjunct Uranus in Scorpio when X-rays were first discovered. Of course, remember, Scorpio is the realm of things that we can't see and touch, and so with the Sun conjunct Uranus in Scorpio, we could finally see what you normally can't see and touch with an invisible light. When Uranus came back around to Scorpio starting in 1975, the aerospace company Lockheed Martin discovered that aircraft made with faceted surfaces would be difficult to detect with radar, and thus stealth technology was born, and the first stealth planes were developed in this period. And what is stealth, if not a way to stay hidden? Scorpio is both ruled by Mars and is about that which is hidden, so naturally Uranus in Scorpio produced military technologies to stay hidden. Stealth technology, Uranus in Scorpio. Sun conjunct Neptune in Scorpio. Neptune is the planet of ideals, fantasies, illusions, and in the realm of Scorpio is going to be a bit, shocking or taboo, even filthy. The musician Peaches was born with the Sun conjunct Neptune in Scorpio, and if you don't know much about her, here are some facts about her which I think should illustrate my point for why she's a good example of this aspect. One of her first bands was called Shit. Here are some of the names of her albums. Fatherfucker, Impeach My Bush, I Feel Cream, Peaches does herself, and some of the names of her songs include Fuck the Pain Away, Diddle My Skittle, Stuff Me Up, Fuck or Kill, Tent in Your Pants, Two Guys for Every Girl, Slippery Dick, Lover Tits, Shake Your Dicks, Dick in the Air, Vaginoplasty, and Dumb Fuck. And here are some of her lyrics. Sucking on my titties like you wanted me, calling me all the time. The blondie, check out my Chrissy behind us, final up the time. What else is in the teachers, peaches, like sex on the beaches? Huh, what? Right? What? Well, there go my Patreon subscribers. Basically, yeah, she loves to be a bit of a shocker. True to Neptune, she is very open about her use of psychedelic and recreational drugs, and she's extremely supportive of transsexuality, promiscuity, and obscene, licentious, ultra-sexual liberalism. And you know what? As a timid male Libra with a stellium of other planets in Scorpio myself, I think all of those things have their place, but Peaches, as a Sun-Neptune conjunction in Scorpio, she's much more upfront and enthusiastic about it, and embodying it. Scorpio rules the genitals, and Neptune rules chemicals, so when Neptune ingressed into Scorpio in 1956, the pill was approved by the FDA for public use. And what does the pill do? It chemically simulates pregnancy to prevent ovulation. So it's a drug that affects a woman's reproductive system. So yeah, Neptune and Scorpio. Sun conjunct Pluto in Scorpio. Pluto makes big things small and small things big. Colin Kaepernick was born with the Sun conjunct Pluto in Scorpio, and holy hell, did something small become something huge. He sat down during a song, and he received death threats and serious impediments to his career. A song purportedly about freedom is a song you're not free to sit down whilst listening to it, apparently. So yeah, with his simple, silent protest against the disparate treatment of black Americans by police, the fury of 1,000 red-faced older, whiter Americans rained down upon him. To them, he's trash, disrespectful, blasphemous. You know, how dare he sit during this song? Just, ugh. To them, he's embodying a dark side of Scorpio, but to others, he's embodying its highest ideals. Kaepernick has a mural depicting angels and demons at war tattooed on his back, and his chest features a tattoo which reads, "Against all odds." That could basically be Scorpio's motto. Multiple planets conjunct the Sun in Scorpio. Sometimes multiple planets can be conjunct the Sun, so you have to kind of blend their interpretations together. There is a woman who was born on Halloween, October 31st, 1970, and she was born with the Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus retrograde, Jupiter, and Neptune in Scorpio. And she might take the prize as the most Scorpio-ish Scorpio to ever Scorpio. She is most famous for cutting off her husband's dick after he raped her. And this is Lorena Bobbitt, of course. She was acquitted for her crime of passion, and now she runs an anti-domestic violence nonprofit. So, yeah. A bucket of Scorpio. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a like, share with your Scorpio friends, and let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure you don't miss my next video by subscribing to my YouTube channel, and if you're super awesome, help me keep these videos coming by supporting me on Patreon, even if it's just $1. And to all Scorpios out there this month, happy birthday. See you next time. Sucking on my titties like you wanted me, calling me all the time. The blondie, check out my Chrissy behind us, final up the time. What else is in the teachers, the beaches, like sex on the beaches? Huh, what? Right? Huh? What?